Good evening, everyone. It's lovely to see you all. Christmas special.
Evening.
Even though Christmas is past us now, it's still great to have a little bit of festive feeling every so often. Um, but we're here. We've bought some slow gin, very festive. So we'll be having a drink this evening.
Saving mine for later.
Well, we've got 2 hours, and I'm sure I'll get through that fairly shortly. No, we've got a packed show for you tonight. We've got special guest Lucy Felgate-Baumberg, who's come on to talk about some hedgehogs and answering hopefully most of your hedgehog questions. We've got lots of videos. We've got Dawn and Dust story, and we've even got a little bit of a festive quiz for it. Well, kind of festive, but there is a special prize, and we'll talk about that when we get to the quiz. But we'll start with a little bit of philosophy and change it up this week. I'm doing it for once. Makes a little bit of a change. But no, the philosophy I wanted to go with this week was just to think about making decisions. Now, a lot of time in our lives, we have to make very tricky and tough decisions. And a lot of the time, those decisions take quite a toll on you, and you can see the positives and negatives of taking either choice with that decision. And then a lot of the time you find once you've actually made that decision, you feel so much better. I mean, yeah, you still have to deal with the consequence of making that decision, but you feel better. You feel like there's not that uncertainty anymore. You feel like it's completed. It's been made. Maybe you've had a tough time in a relationship and there's been a lot of uncertainty around it. And once you've made that decision to carry on or to call it a day there, you generally feel a lot better. And there was actually a quote from one of the best frontmen of all time, Maxi Jazz from Faithless. And he said when they came out and he did an interview when Faithless said that they were splitting up, and he said it was a tough decision to make at the time, but once they'd made that decision, he felt a lot better within himself. And it goes to show, I mean, I've been there. I'm sure most people have been there. Once you've made that decision, you just feel so much better within yourself, and you know what you've got to aim for and what you've got to work with from there.
Do you ever feel that it helps when you've got to make a decision? You actually sit down with a piece of paper and write down all of the things for and all of the things against.
Oh, definitely.
And you can clear things up a little bit. And it's funny because a lot of the decisions that we have to make, we wrap them up in so much emotion. And it's actually putting things on paper can actually help clarify the things, the problems that we have. And it's kind of cutting through that core. And you were saying how when you've made those, or sometimes to make those decisions, it's getting out in the countryside. Is that right?
Yeah. For me, I mean, I had a bit of a tough time with my isolation when I tested positive and I had to follow the government guidelines and government rules and laws. And I had to isolate for 10 days. And it was a tough 10 days. It was wake up and live in the same four walls in the same box day in, day out for 10 days. And it was a struggle. It was tough. A lot of ups and downs. But we still made the circle work. We still had a good time on the 17th. We still enjoyed ourselves and we still found a way around it. But as soon as my isolation finished on Christmas Eve, we went for a walk on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, Boxing Day, 27th, 28th. We've been on a long dog walk every day since, and that has been a deliberate point. As soon as you wake up, you do something productive, and then you go out on a dog walk. Doesn't matter where. It could be far away. It could be near to home. You go on a dog walk, and then as soon as you come home, you instantly feel better. And it's helped me a country mile, just being able to now physically be able to get outside again. It's been brilliant.
Get through that difficult time, make that decision, get out in the countryside. Definitely. So, Dawn stories.
Yeah. So, if you want to talk, this is Checkers, I believe, is this Dawn story, which is on just outside Sandwich Bay.
The Checkers is a pub that is kind of halfway between the north end of Deal and the south side of Sandwich. It's along the ancient highway. We'll tell you a little bit about the ancient highway shortly, but because I'm prone to telling you everything that's in the video before we get to the video, we're going to play it first. Off you go, mate.
Good morning, Simon here. Down at the beach, north of Deal. It's around about 6:30 and it's coming to the end of November. Why do you come to the beach? Just listen. Sound of waves gently washing us on to the beach. It's gorgeous. Why at this time of day? Well, the sun's not actually risen yet. But you can see the light starting to get bright. This morning, just had a very calm, quiet, dare I say, even peaceful magic here. First got up here, it was really dark. But you can see the lights in cars. You can see cars travelling in France. There are people getting up there and they're going to work. And then you start hearing the sounds of the seagulls. You can't see them yet, but you can hear them. And then as you get that little bit more light, you start seeing them shapes. As they, that familiar gull shape as they take to the air, and you see those black silhouettes. If you come often enough, you'll realise that in the summer, mostly the birds that come out are herring gulls, or maybe some lesser blackback gulls. But they tend to kind of go away a little bit as we get into winter. And the black-headed gulls come out, and they're really interesting because, funny enough, they haven't actually got black heads. They're brown, and they've only got those in the summer. In the winter, their heads turn to white. They just have these dark patches behind the eyes. That's pretty special. Now this morning, there's this amazing red stripe behind me. Normally you see them and they go within 5 to 10 minutes, but this one's been there and bold and prominent all morning. It's absolutely spectacular. I don't know whether the rhymes are not true. You know, the red sky at night, shepherd's delight, red sky in morning, shepherd's morning. Never quite got to the point where I totally agree with that. But it's always made me laugh when someone's gone, no, that's not right. Red sky at night, shepherd's house on fire. Red sky in the morning, shepherd's house still on fire. But ultimately, why do we come out? Just listen. Now, when you consider the sea's almost like a milk on, smooth, and you still get that lovely washing sound of the waves. I would say this is not worth getting out of bed for. Beautiful.
Sorry, I was just listening to the sea there.
We just have one thing come in the chat. If you've got anything that you want to say, please put it in the chat and please make sure it's set to everyone so we can all read it and we can enjoy it as a community. No better sounds than waves. Love it.
Absolutely. It's funny. Through the lockdown, I got involved in a lot of breakfast networking meetings and running a couple. And as a result, I only actually get one morning a fortnight where I don't have to be in front of the computer for 7:30. And I guess it's because that scarcity has been so important, but actually getting out and not having a time limit on me first thing has been fantastic. So on occasions I have got out to the woods and we've shown some videos from there. And on that morning we got out to the Checkers with the sky behind me and that red. And also took a set of photographs and you can see the morning getting brighter and brighter and brighter as you go. And it was an amazing, amazing morning just to be out and enjoy it. Still came back, carried on with work, but it was really cool. Okay, so we're going to move on. Anybody who's followed any of the social media that I've produced during the year, and it's been quite I've been busy throughout the year with social media, will have heard me talk about things like Samhain, like Lammas, like Beltane, and they all relate to the Celtic Wheel of the Year. So we thought it would be a good time as it's Christmas and to actually talk about how all those things, those celebrations fit together, because everything in our life is cycles. You know, we've talked about that during these sessions, you know, the cycle from, if you like, birth to life to death to rebirth, or the annual cycle, or even the weekly cycle, the lunar cycles. But the Celtic Wheel of the Year kind of fits in with the yearly cycle. So we're going to have a quick look at how that kind of all fits together. So if Ross could bring up the PowerPoint, that would be really cool. And so we put this together just to give you an overview. It starts off, there are 4 fixed points in the year that we tend to work with. The first one we've just had is the, if you like, the winter solstice. And could we bring that one up, please? So the winter solstice, top of the year, it's on the 21st of December. And that was the one where we were talking about just before our last episode, where it's the longest night and the shortest day. And we were talking about it last year, this year especially. I always get confused about New Year and Old Year at this time of year. You know, last Christmas was sort of 3 days ago, and it's only going to be 4 days, and we'll say Christmas last year. Anyway, Christmas this year, and we were talking about that 800-year speciality of actually having a winter star. On the opposite side of the winter solstice, on the 21st of June, we have the summer solstice, which is we're the opposite, complete opposite, where we have the shortest night and the longest day of the year. And in between those, we've got the 2 equinoxes. We've got the spring equinox, or Ostara, which tends to be around about, we've got the autumn equinox first. Obviously well planned. The autumn equinox, which falls at round about the 21st, the 24th of September. And the spring equinox, or Ostara, which again falls roughly on the 21st of March. So we've got these 4 fixed festivals, but across those, we've also got what's called the cross quarter celebrations. And the first one is, I'm not going to try and predict my own PowerPoint, Samhain. Samhain has been moved around and changed and juggled and is now generally known as Halloween. Samhain is the beginning of the Celtic year. It's a time when the veils between, if you like, this world and other worlds are thinnest, and which is probably where Halloween and witches and ghosts and ghouls and all those things come from. But it is a time when you may well try and think about your ancestors, those people that have come before you, and remember them. Why is it the beginning of the year? It's the beginning of the year because we go into darkness, which is a time of quiet, a time of regeneration, a time of taking stock of what we've done and where we're going. The next celebration in the cross quarter is Imbolc, which is beginning of February. And this is where we're starting to actually notice the days get longer. We're really starting to see a beginning of growth in the countryside. You know, it's a time when blackthorn tends to come into blossom. And traditionally, it was always celebrated when the sheep mothers first started to come into milk, so that they can actually start dropping the lambs and be able to feed them. Moving onwards, we have Beltane. Beltane is where summer really starts kicking in. We start getting some serious heat into our world, where the plants that we see, vegetation, really start taking off. We can see leaves coming fully on the trees. It was a time of fertility. We still have that celebration. We still celebrate it. It's on May the 1st. And we still think about maypole dancing and things like that. But it's still based back on that original Celtic philosophy. And the last cross-quarter festival, Lammas, is the kind of second full-on summer festival. It's where we're getting seriously into the harvest, where we really get some serious heat into the world. It's that time when we used to let our kids off school so they could help with the harvest. So as you see, we then got all of these 8 festivals, generally kind of like between 6 and 8 weeks apart, and they celebrate the way that the if you like, the year changes, the way our weathers change, the way that our daytime and nighttime change. And if we actually look at those, now we don't tend to have that kind of traditional outside lifestyle anymore, but we can still actually try and work our lives with that. You know what I mean? Every time we have a new year, we tend to think of a new start or a new beginning. And we look at the way that we work that into our systems, into our celebration, because our bodies still work better through those longer days. And if we can actually channel our energies to work with that festival, work with that wheel of the year, then that will help us be more productive, especially if when it is quiet in the winter, we've already prepared for it. So therefore, when we are quieter, when we need less work, we want less work, when our minds and our bodies are less likely to want to get up and go out and do things, we've already prepared for that eventuality. And we just observe how the world works around us. So if you want to know more, obviously we can talk that one through on another occasion. But if you just look back at the social media that I've produced under Simple Life this year, and there are videos all about those 8, well, to be fair, 7, because I started them at Beltane festivals, and obviously we'll keep that one going. And there'll be an underlying theme of that wheel of the year running through what we do continually. We won't always be shouting about it, but it will be there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dad. It's Celtic Wheel of the Year. I never really knew that much about. So I knew about the summer solstice and the winter solstice until one day Dad explained it, and it just sums up the year. You mean, you think you get. I mean, we were quite lucky when I was about 8 years old. We went to a friend of ours, family friend's wedding, and it was just around Easter, and it was just starting to get warm, and it was that sort of first time of the year when you actually get to sit there and enjoy a little bit of heat from the sun, which you've missed in the last couple of months, and all through the winter and the autumn. And I remember that we sat, well, where we were staying it was like cabins, and we sat by these trees at the back of our cabin in the sunlight, reading some books and just relaxing and enjoying it. And it just shows that Celtic Wheel of the Year, how all those years ago they still got it right. All those years ago.
Absolutely. Right. So Ross shot a video earlier this year. When did last? It was this year still. I'll get that confusion going on. He went up to one of our local country parks and just looked at some of the things that they had available. And we're actually thinking that in the new year, we're going to spend some time going out and looking at some of the local country parks and trying to get off the beaten track with them just a little bit. So this is our first step into the idea of visiting country parks. So, over to Ross.
Hello, this is Ross for Simple Life Circle, and we've just started a topic during our weekly broadcasts about unleashing a walker. Basically, it's a section that we'd like to do about local areas, places you can come with your family, where you can get out and about. And this is Falmead, or is now known as Betsanger Country Park, and it's a great place to come. Here is an example of what they've done. And when I was younger, we used to come, this was our base when we would play games like Manhunt and Hide and Seek. And they've now converted it, 'cause it's been years since I've been here. They've now converted it and they've got things like this. So you can come out when it's raining and they'll do events out here. You can build cabins, you can build platforms out of the logs. And it's just a great place to be. We'll see you in a minute for another video. Hello, me back again. Now, we just travelled a little bit further into the other side of the woods. Now, it might be geared up a lot for forest schools and being outside with the family, but it's also a country park where they've left a lot of the area to just be a natural woodland. And this is one of those areas. It's just been left by, well, to do its thing by nature. They haven't built on it, they haven't done anything on the area. A little bit of background knowledge on the area is Betsanger Country Park used to be a coal mine. Now, the coal mine has been inactive for years, and it became a country park around 2010. Now it's geared up for families and stuff to come and play and to enjoy it. But it's also built on top of the coal mine. So the ground around here, yes, now it's been left and nature's taken it back, but all the ground is hard stone and bits of coal, and it's very good soil. There's a lot of minerals in it, but we'll talk about the minerals in a minute in the next video. So thank you very much. We'll see you in a minute. Hello again. Now, talking about the minerals and about how it used to be a coal mine, this is the lake, and it's got a strange colour. I don't know if you can see the colour. It's got a weird green turquoise tinge to it, and that tinge has come because of the minerals that have come out of the coal and out of where it's been mined. And there's not a lot of places in the world you'll see things like this. I don't know, here's the lake.
Yeah, so no, that's the first instalment as such on our journey with all of the country parks that are local or near. That is the localist one to us. It's fairly close. They're running constant activities that you can go out with your family and do. I mean, when I was there, they had almost a Christmas treasure hunt, and you had to go around with a clipboard and they gave you hints and whatever, and you followed the trail they gave you. And each spot they'd made little intricate things you had to get a photo in front of. So there was a snowman that was made out of tyres that they'd spray painted white, and then further along there was reindeer that had been made out of straw, and they'd strapped a reindeer head to the front of it. And there was all these little intricate things. And whilst we were there was it's all geared up for different types of cycling as well. There's like heavier downhill mountain biking trails, which are quite fast paced and more dangerous and stuff. But there's also lighter mountain bike trails if you want to go with your family and take younger kids, they can enjoy. And there's also the cycle track as well, which you can go around, as well as a cafe and a recently refurbished play area. It's slightly different to when I was going there when I was 12 or 13. When I used to go there, they used to have a massive zip wire that went from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill. It's not there anymore, probably health and safety reasons, because it was pretty quick. And they used to have, when I was a lot younger, they used to have a BMX track, and it was all just the hard soil they got, and they compacted it all, and then made ramps and trail and little windy paths and ways with all the soil and the diggers and stuff, so they could make it suitable for mountain bikes or BMXs. And I used to have a great time down there when I was younger. And no, it's just a fantastic place to go. A couple of things come back in the chat. Looks cool. What's the full name of this, please? It's Betsanger Country Park, or Falmead. Probably go with Betsanger Country Park, but it was called Falmead until a couple of years ago. another one as well. They have an assault course there as well. They do have an assault course. I had forgotten about that, and we actually did it a couple of years ago as a fundraiser for charity. We did it in the winter, and it was very cold. It was very wet, but it was great fun. It was really great fun, and yeah, we had an amazing time. But no, that is Betshanger Country Park, the first instalment of many.
Okay. Sorry, I was distracted there. We've had a couple of people having some problems with the link trying to get in. So we were just sorting that one. Now, we've dug out one or two videos from this year that we were really pleased with. And the one that's coming up right now is about house martins. So we're going to show you this. It was filmed down at Kingsdown Rifle Range, which is an old area of ground. And it was one of those moments. To see fantastic things in nature, you've got to be in nature. And the more often that you can get out into the countryside, the more things that you're going to see. And we saw some amazing video down there of kestrel and fulmars, but this was house martins. So if you would like to start this one, we'll let it run and we'll tell you a bit more about it afterwards.
Now this is amazing. These are house martins. And they're using the pool, the soft mud around this small pool to collect and rebuild the nests. What's even more amazing is that these little birds have flown down to South Africa or India for the winter. They come back to the same spot and they find their old nests. And what they do is they like to collect soft mud so they can go back, redecorate for this year to bring up their young. This is absolutely amazing. Just watch these house martins. You can tell they're house martins because they've got a short pointed tail and white at the base of it. Unlike their cousins sand martins, which are brown. Absolutely beautiful. How's about that for a fantastic, fantastic little video? Wow.
Wow, it's quite amazing. For those of you who are not sure, this is a very, very high-tech version of, but this is a house martin. Yeah, they're the birds that they arrive in kind of May time, and they're the ones with the short tail, and they've got white at the base of that tail. They are quite amazing. I mean, there used to be nests on the house next door to us when we moved in, and I was very upset when the lady owned it at the time, redecorated, and she had them knocked off, and they never put them back because for whatever reason, martins, when they come back, don't tend to start again from scratch. They tend to use their houses on a traditional basis over and over. But to actually be somewhere and actually see them coming in and scooping up soft mud was fantastic. It was one of those, I managed to shoot a couple of videos and get a little bit closer each time because you don't want to disturb them, but you obviously want to get as close as possible. So what I actually did, I shot a video, was pleased with it, got a bit closer, shot another one, and got a bit closer because unless you're an expert, photographer, videographer, you just have to get in and do the best you can for that minute and move in. But it was just an unreal experience, and we wanted to spend a little bit of the time tonight actually sort of like just going over one or two of the fantastic shots we had this year, and we've got another couple as we go through the evening. Anyway, we're moving onwards, and we're gonna bring Lucy in to now. So Lucy used to be local to us, used to live in Deal, and Lucy had a shop which she shut and filled with hedgehogs. Now, I remember going around to see it, and there literally was hedgehogs almost from floor to ceiling, wall to wall, front to back, side to side, and they were all hedgehogs that needed caring for and looking after. So when we got asked by a couple of people if we could do some more work on hedgehogs, and we'd had a couple of videos earlier in the year, it just made absolute sense for us to ask Lucy if she'd come in and help us. Now, she's moved away a little bit now, but because of the wonders of Zoom, because of the year we've had, and we've all got used to using Zoom, that meant that even though Lucy's not local anymore, she can still come on and join us. So I'd like to give a big Simple Life Circle welcome to Lucy, and thank you very much for coming. Hopefully you're sharing the screen and also we can now hear you.
Thank you for inviting me. And I am still floor to ceiling, wall to wall full of hedgehogs, but now they're actually in my only 2 bedrooms of my house while I fundraise for sheds. And I sleep in a chair downstairs. So it's a hog's life. But yes, 10 years, I suppose now I've been rescuing. The last 18 months were in East Yorkshire. What to talk to you about, there's so many different aspects of it. So I thought I'd just go through a few of the things that we come up against, and something to do with this time of year. So the ailments that we come across are dehydration, fly strike, rat poisons and traps have been seriously bad through the COVID time. Open drains, the holes that have been dug, trenches, all left sort of open where they've fallen in. Dog attacks are on the increase, where a lot of the time are accidental because people aren't aware that they're going into their gardens. So we advise people to put their dogs on leads now. Ponds that have not been given slopes, had several come in where they've near drowned. Garden netting is another one. I mean, one poor hedgehog recently came in, the guy had caught it in a rat trap, so it had its foot stuck in that. It made a run for it, ran straight into the netting in the garden, so it had a double whammy. But it has survived and it's doing very well. Strimmers and forks in the garden are an absolute nightmare. We always advise if you're going to use a strimmer, do it to start at a foot above ground, so that way you're not chopping their legs off. They've got time to move and you've got time to search the grass. Same with forking compost heaps. It's a favourite place for them. Broken limbs, broken jaws, usually road accident. Disturbed nests were a real problem this year because everyone decided that in lockdown they were going to do a lot more gardening. And in came all the babies, which means syringe feeding every hour through the night and day for at least the first 24 hours. Pregnant females were brought in a lot, found running in the roads because they'd been disturbed out of their nest, and because it was too late to rebuild their nest, they were coming into me, and 24 hours later I had another litter with me. It was a bit like a maternity ward here in this early summer. Blindness is on the increase, which is quite worrying, and they're always being found running around in circles in crop fields that have been sprayed. Starting to wonder if the chemicals in the spraying are at fault, but it can't be proven. It really is a problem, all of this. Now, go to the heat. Hibernation. Now, a lot of people think hedgehogs hibernate from October onwards. In general, yes, but because our weather changes so drastically, 1 minute it's warm, then it's cold, a lot of them aren't hibernating. They need a regular nightly 5 degrees and below to even consider it. And the reason for hibernation is more because their natural food source doesn't exist anymore, because that's hibernated. But now that we're all starting to be aware of them being on the red list for extinction, more and more people are putting out food and water for them, which is brilliant because it is saving so many more of them. There are many that are not hibernating because they're so fat and they're warm. We've got others that went into early hibernation that are waking up for a top up because while they hibernate, they lose weight. And now we've got the late autumn, early winter hoglets. Pregnancy is about a month. So if you think end of September mating, they're born in end of October. Their mums and dads usually leave, well, their mums leave them at 6 to 8 weeks of age, smack into hibernation time and the cold. So we're getting lots of these little tiny ones, only so big, size of my hand, coming in. They will not survive the winter months. So if you do see little ones, any hedgehog under 650 grams needs to go into your nearest rescue. Please do not try and look after it yourself. There are many hidden ailments. I get people say, oh, but it was very lively last night and it's half dead by the time it arrives in the morning. They get a huge burden of worms. Roundworms, lungworm, and fluke worm are the most common. Thorny head and tapeworm are not so common, and in the latter stages are visual to the eye, but most of them you have to look under a microscope. A bad infestation can kill them. They can carry fleas and ticks. Ticks are on all wild animals, unfortunately, horrible little things. The fleas, the hedgehog flea, will only live on a hedgehog. So you have no worries about them spreading to your cat or dog should you rescue them. Food-wise, I prefer to feed, and I get asked this a lot. Most people get a cat food or a cat biscuit. That's fine. It is out in the wild. It is a supplement food. While they're in hospital here, I prefer to give them a seriously good brand of hedgehog food. You must always avoid foods that contain wild bird food ingredients, such as mealworms. Mealworms cause metabolic bone disease in hedgehogs. Peanuts and sunflowers are bad for them. Peanuts especially because they get caught in the upper of their jaw and they can't feed. But the one food that I use, and I use this 70%, is the brambles. It is expensive, but that one tin will feed 4 or 5 hedgehogs with a handful of biscuit. So what I do is 70% of that, and then 30% with any good quality cat food, as long as it's meat flavored, never fish, and cat biscuits, mix it in. Brambles do a dried as well, so they get a good mixture, and always plenty of fresh water. Never give them milk, and like I say, nothing that contains wild bird foods. It is worth giving them shelter at this time of year, because the little ones especially are out and about. They don't know how to build a nest. So if you can provide a hedgehog house, which I believe you're going to be talking about later.
Yes.
We do have one, which we will be.
Yep.
We have a prop to hand.
Sorry?
We have a prop to hand.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, just grab it now.
Oh, right. Very nice. Yes.
Actually, we've one of our members has actually got one of these very special saucy hedgehog boxes.
Lovely.
At home, and so we can model it. It's one of the things, and I'm sure you find as well, is there are an awful lot of hedgehog boxes for sale on the market that haven't actually got a door big enough for a hedgehog to get in.
No.
I know that when we were landscaping and we would put them into all of the projects we worked on, before we found the gentleman we've got now and we were buying them kind of commercially, we generally have to actually make the doors bigger than when they are, because they need to be at least 4 inches by 4 inches or 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres. Otherwise, the average hedgehog just cannot get in. So,
no, I actually recommend 5-inch square, and in some cases 6, because some of the hedgehogs at the moment are huge. I mean, we're seeing sort of over 1 kilo body weight. I mean, we're talking whoppers. And some of them that I release, by the time I've fed them up here and got them back to health, they're usually about that size when they leave. And people are always shocked when they brought me this little tiny hoglet. And I was, well, this is your hoglet. But yes, they're hedgehog houses. There are a lot on the market that are quite dangerous as well. Don't recommend these dome ones that you see with a netting inside. They're almost like a hanging basket. Somebody gave me one and I just turned it into a basket planter. I turned it upside down, put some holes in the bottom, because hedgehogs have been known to get caught up in them, in the mesh that's been put inside. So it is, and you need tunnels like you have in your box, a nice little tunnel going down the side. It stops the wind, it stops predators. I've also found if you face them south, they are more successful because less cold winds and sheltered. So even if it faces a wall, it'll have, if you leave a gap big enough for them to go down, that's even better.
Because we've always said southeast, if at all.
Yeah.
And with that and bird boxes, I mean, which is a different thing. We've
yeah.
Philosophy of your front door's wide open. Do you want an east wind coming in it? No.
No.
Coming in it? No. So if you're facing southeast, you get to hit the door, and if you do want to see some daylight, and you're not then getting baked by the southerly sun, which again is coming at you the entire way through. So yeah.
But with hedgehog boxes, they're better hidden under hedges and things like that, if possible anyway, so they're sheltered. But the other thing I wanted to mention was I get a lot of people, because I'm 24/7, I get calls night and day as to who do they contact in their area. So they're coming in from all over the UK. There are several sites where people can contact. There's on Facebook, there is a page called helpanimals.co.uk. On there, you can put in your postcode and species of animal and come up with your nearest rescue. British Hedgehog Preservation Society also do 24/7. You can ring them for a phone number of a rescue near you that is registered with them. They keep a list for the UK. In Yorkshire, we've got a new website called Yorkshire Hedgehogs, and that lists many of us across Yorkshire. That's been really useful. I wish more counties would do it, because it really would help people much quicker. And there's a very good book that anybody can download called from Vale Wildlife Rescue. I mean, all rescues have agree and disagree on different ways of caring and things, but Vale have produced this book for rehabilitators and for anybody who really wants to learn a bit more about hedgehogs and how to look after them in the first instance.
Hang on, you've just muted Lucy.
Oh, we've technical difficulties. As per usual, wouldn't be a show without some technical difficulties, of course.
I'm back.
She's back. Excellent. Sorry, we just
don't know why. I don't know what happened there.
No.
Yeah, Vale Wildlife do a rehabilitators book. It's about £12, but I think you can download it as well. But on it, there is a page which is of great interest to vets, because many vets haven't studied the species. So we always say download that page and take it to them. It's a list of tried and tested drugs for hedgehogs, because there is nothing licensed. And it's got the dosages, etc. That is a real help for everybody. So whichever vet I use, I give them a book. I say without offence, but there we go. But if you need any help, just give us a shout, ask questions. I'm here.
No, that's brilliant. I have to admit, it was funny. Before I knew that you were doing hedgehogs, I actually got in touch with the Hedgehog Preservation Society. I went to see the lady in Deal. And it's quite funny because people go, oh, my back gate is so far away and we're nowhere near the countryside and everything else. And what she'd done, because the back of her house, when you came out of her garden, she had an alley that was about 20 yards long, which then did a right angle to come back to the front of the road. And that was about the length of a house in the gardens. It was about 20, 30 yards long.
I know exactly where you're talking about.
She's got hedgehog holes in her front gate. Then there's a hedgehog hole in her back garden gate, and as well as the fact that she's obviously got the hedgehogs that she's looking after, but the hedgehogs used to find their way, because she was probably at least 500 yards away from the countryside, would find their way to her, not only find the front gate for her property, they then go down the path and along and find their way into her property. And she had a fair amount of visiting wild hedgehogs that were quite fit and well and healthy. And it's a case of, if you actually set up the provisions for them, and
they will find you.
They will find you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, people don't realise that they travel up to 2 miles a night, foraging and finding mates. I often get people say, "Oh, but I don't know that I want it to come back because of the main road." How can you avoid a main road? There's roads everywhere. You can't avoid all these things. You can just sort of assist by having food, shelter, blocking holes and drains, all the things that need to be done for their safety when they're sort of trampling through your garden.
And people also, if you think about it, because one garden is a bit of a drop in the ocean for a hedgehog, the amount of space they can cover and the food they eat. So we always try and encourage people to actually go and talk to the neighbours, maybe have a barbecue or a social event, because what you need to do is have a hedgehog-sized hole in every side of your garden, so that they can only come into your garden, but they can go into next door's garden and next door's garden. And when you
make a hedgehog street.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you go onto the website of the British Hedgehog Preservation Society, I believe they have something there called Hedgehog Street. It helps you encourage your neighbours and your lodge where your hedgehog holes are. But they've also got a map where they would like people to record their sightings of hedgehogs, whether they're dead or alive, because this helps the scientific side of it. So like myself, relocating hedgehogs for release back into the wild, if there's an area where it shows up there's an awful lot of dead hedgehogs, we avoid it. Same as we quietly in the background, we connect with badger protection. So where there are badgers, we don't release hedgehogs because that is the main predator of a hedgehog.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's lots of things taken into account before we release, but the majority go back to the garden they came from.
That's it. I mean, I understand the two biggest issues for hedgehogs, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Lucy, is the concrete kickboards that we put in our fences around the gardens. Now, with the correct application of an angle grinder, and I know this because I've done it, you can make a hedgehog hole in a really strong, solid fence that you won't need to replace.
Yeah.
One is badgers.
But you can also buy, some of the builders' yards now sell these concrete plinths with the hole already in it. And I believe you now legally have to put a hedgehog hole in fencing, any new fencing you put up. But obviously people have their own ways about that.
Yeah, I mean, no, we say it, certainly we've done that one. And the other, obviously, as you say, is badgers. And that would be because it wasn't that long ago. I mean, badgers being just about the only natural predator to a hedgehog. It wasn't that long ago. Badger numbers were so low that they gained the protected status that they've now got, which was just and right and exactly as it should be. But there are now that many badgers, and they haven't repealed or adjusted or made those laws workable. I mean, I know several farmers who, if they had hair, would be tearing it out. Because badger is obviously doing very well, but they have an element of destruction about them because of their natural lifestyle and the way that they go. But by the same token, that means if you're a hedgehog and your predator is in vast numbers, then your numbers are going to follow suit.
The main problem I think we've got at the moment, which I'm an anti of culling the badgers, I'm afraid, I don't agree with it at all, is that by this culling going on, they're dispersing the survivors into new areas. And we're getting a lot of calls from people saying, what's happened to all of our hedgehogs? They've disappeared. And I think this is the knock-on effect of the culling of the badgers. They're not going to go back to a set that's been attacked. So they're going to move on to another area, which means we're now going to find, I mean, I've had several calls of the same saying, wow, we've got hedgehogs, we haven't seen them for years. Now, I'm sure this is the interference of nature. It has a knock-on effect.
It does. We should just put...
Very sad.
Ross is obviously monitoring the chat.
We've got a fair few questions come in.
All right, okay. Fire away.
There's quite a few. It's great to see everyone getting involved. And if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat. And I will.
Just before we get into that, can we just welcome, I think it's Sheila and Claire, who've joined us a little bit late. We've had some fun and games trying to get the link across so that they're here, which is why I was a little bit distracted earlier, but we've managed to make it work. They've come along, they have joined in us. Welcome, Claire. Welcome, Sheila. Please get involved in the chat. So this is Lucy, who's come along. She's a hedgehog rescue expert. She knows what she doesn't know about hedgehogs. Forget it. She's absolutely amazing. So again, get involved in the chat. But we're going to have a run now through, and we're going to do some quick fire shots to Lucy on your subjects. So,
first one, Lucy, is just, could you please write the email in the chat of the rescue site for hedgehogs? Just put the link in there. Don't have to do it now, whenever's easiest for you.
Well, maybe when we finish the chat, and if you could get them in our chat and put them in the chat.
Okay, I assume they mean the rescues that I said, so they can search for their nearest rescue.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll list them. Yep.
First question: Can you check on them in their boxes during hibernation? If yes, is during daylight okay?
Yes. I always recommend people check on them. Don't touch them, but go with straw and top up their box. because they often, by now the weather's cold, it's wet, there's not much there for them to add to their nest that's going to be nice and dry. So I've always, same with my soft release, I recommend soft releasing rather than just dumping them in a garden, say good luck, especially in the winter because there's nothing out there. Gives them a mental imprint of where the food and water is and where there is shelter. But I always say to people, lift the lid quickly, chuck a load of straw in, shut the lid, and check it daily, because if they're building their nest, they're going to be squashing it right down. I checked some of my disabled ones in the sanctuary garden, and I can't even put a finger through the doorway. It's solid, moss, leaves, twigs, straw, you name it. So they really do. It's all better than a bird nest in some cases, but it's made very much the same. It's knitted together. So yeah, top it up with straw, because you know they can't go out and gather anything that's half decent now. So even if you had a plastic storage box on its side in a sheltered spot, fill it with some straw or an old water butt on its side, wedged on its side, fill it with straw, and the animals will come and get what they need for nesting. Yeah, so it just gives them a bit of help.
Brilliant.
Next question that's come in is, how did you get into looking after hedgehogs?
Ooh, that was the vet in Deal, while I was sat with my dog in the reception, and who had a big hedgehog hooked under his arm and gave me the sad expression, knowing full well what he was up to. And I said, so what's wrong? And he said, oh, I've got to put it to sleep. It's got a bad leg and it can't go back in the wild, so it needs an enclosed garden, Lucy. And he gave the old sobs, and I knew full well I had an enclosed garden. So yeah, I went home with the hedgehog. And from there on, I started rescuing all the disabled hedgehogs I could. And I was in connection with Swampy's Wildlife Rescue on the Isle of Sheppey. It's another one worth following on Facebook. He covers everything. Absolutely brilliant man. So I used to travel over to him. So it was a 3-hour round trip, pick up his disabled hedgehogs, and then I used to look after them with me. And it gradually got more and more popular. People saying, oh, well, I found a baby hedgehog. Oh, I found an injured one. And in the end, I thought, oh, God, I'm going to have to open a rescue. And that's how it all started.
Did you get reduced vet bills for taking hedgehogs from the vet?
No. No, I don't think vets know that word, reduced. I've been very lucky, though, up here. Got Swanbridge Veterinary Hospital by the Humber. Really love their hedgehogs, and they have done, and there are very few vets that save disabled hedgehogs. They just don't. They either don't agree with it, or they just don't have the time to find an enclosed garden or a rescue to deal with it. But Swanbridge do, and I've had lots of them have amputated legs. They even pinned a front leg. I mean, if you saw their skeletal, I mean, honestly, that's microsurgery, but they made that effort rather than amputate. So I use them for that sort of thing. And my little local one, he's amazing. And he just charges me cost price for my drugs and no consultation. Whereas all the others will charge you consultation, full price drugs. You might get 5% off. Well, I had over 80 hedgehogs through the summer, non-stop rolling.
I know, wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, I just couldn't have done it with consultation fees added to the bill.
And it's funny,
No.
you rarely see a vet out there without a discovery with a personalised number plate.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Anyway, moving on, next question.
How do you attract a hedgehog to your garden?
Firstly, make sure you haven't got badgers in the area, or you'll be wasting your time.
Or a dog.
Sorry?
Or a dog.
Well, it depends on the dog and how you control it, really. Some people I've known have sectioned off an area of their garden and left it to grow wild, and put hedgehog doorways in the fence to go out onto fields and things, so their dog can't reach it. Made hedgehog houses, put hedgehog feeding stations in, put food and water out every night. That encourages them in. I had one lady who lived in an estate, and they've got what they call them, 10-foots, I think they call them here. We call them alleyways or whatever down Kent. And lots of hedgehogs use that route, but she never got any in her garden. I said, but have you got a hole in your fence? So I said, right, put a hole in the fence, put a hedgehog box with food and water in, and they'll come. And they have, it's great. but it's gardens like hers that didn't have the access that I need for my disabled hedgehogs. So it swings roundabouts, you know, depends what they want to do. But yes, put the food there, feeding stations. So if you Google feeding station, they're very much like a nesting box. So they've got a tunnel to them. You put the food and water inside.
You've got, so is it best to have a separate feeding station to a hedgehog box in general then?
It is generally, yeah. But I mean, the triangular rabbit runs, if you Google those, they come with a house at the end, and then the triangular run. Well, that's what we use for soft release. So they go in the house, they've got their area to be fed and watered, and we put a piece of plastic over the top to keep it dry. And then after a couple of weeks of being in there, they mentally know where they can come back for food, water, and shelter. In the winter months, what people are doing are scooping them out when they've hibernated, putting them into a hedgehog box in the garden, and then coming to me for another one that needs releasing and goes into the run. But that way, they're not going to die of starvation or cold. And in the summer, like I say, a lot of these little tiny hoglets come in. They don't know anything. I mean, a lot of them were born in captivity. So it's much kinder to them to go into this run, and you can put grass and dig up weeds and give them things to sniff, and they tend to roly-poly around and throw froth over themselves. We call it self-anointing. People think they're having a fit. I mean, some of them really do froth like they've got rabid, you know, but that's their reaction to smells and tastes. So some of them, they've never seen these things before, and they're just constantly rolling in froth, you know, and get very excited about it. And then eventually you can let them go once they've calmed down. But yeah.
The next question.
Separate is usually better.
Is there a time of year that is optimal for bringing hedgehogs into your garden? So is that what's the best time of year to really try and bring them?
To encourage them?
Yeah.
I would encourage them all year round, but you will find springtime, April, will be about the time they'll be looking for mates, looking for food. They'll be so hungry as well because they should have started coming out of hibernation then. But like I said earlier, a lot of them semi-hibernate, some don't. So keep the food and water going all the time. Just put it there and encourage them in. But yeah, spring is usually the time you'll encourage the most.
So is there then a best time to, I mean, it's like when you put up bird boxes, you would put them up in the autumn so they can use them for overwintering and then encourage them to use them for next year. Is there an optimum time to actually put out a hedgehog box itself?
Well, I just say keep them all year round. So if you've got one, put it there, get it ready. Like I said, we've got some of them aren't even hibernating, but they may decide to, if that weather plummets to below 5 degrees or below 0 on a regular basis, they're going to be forced to take some sort of warmth cover. If they can find it near a feeding station, that's where they'll go. In the spring, the mothers to be are the ones that are going to be more likely to nest in your box and have their babies if you are regular feeders throughout the year, because they can't leave their babies. Often they'll have them and they won't eat or drink for 4 days, and then they come out and they're ravenous, you know. So if the food's there, they'll dash out, feed, and go back. That's the best way to encourage them.
So next one as well is I put out hedgehog food and it gets soaked.
Right, so this is a hedgehog feeding station you need then. You can either get a hedgehog nesting box that's got a tunnel, and they go in and you lift the lid and you put the food and water in there, and they'll use that, or you make a bigger version. You can make homemade ones out of the big plastic storage boxes. Cut a 5-inch square hole at one end and put some tape around it so it's not too sharp, and then put the food and water the other end and weight it down with a slab or a brick. And that way you can make a tunnel to that with bricks and things.
We had a lady came on earlier in the year and showed us some video of the hedgehogs in her garden. She actually had 2 nest boxes, and she started off thinking she had 2 hedgehog boxes for sleeping in, but she was putting out food, and the hedgehog was actually taking the food into one of the boxes and sleeping in the other box. So she ended, in the end, she worked it out from the hedgehog. She put all the food into one of the boxes. But the weird thing is that the expensive box that she bought was used for food, and the like kids at Christmas use the box and not the toy.
Yes, I was about to say.
Hedgehog was choosing to sleep in.
Yeah. Failing that, I mean, it's keeping cats and foxes from eating it as well. It's not just the weather. So it's having something a container with a tunnel to it that they can't access. But some people just put a sheet of plastic over a box, cardboard box or something, weight it down with bricks, something simple that they can just walk in and out of. Just depends on the type of wildlife you have coming into the garden.
So, do cats put off bringing hedgehogs into your garden? If you own...
No, cats actually don't bother hedgehogs. I've actually seen some quite hilarious videos with these trail cameras fitted in feeding stations where cats have managed to squeeze through the hole and they're there happily eating, and the hedgehog comes in huffing and puffing, head down, and butts the cat out. You know, they don't argue with the hedgehog at all. The only time cats and foxes are a worry with hedgehogs is when they're hoglets, because their spines aren't sharp enough.
That's it. This is something like 3,000 reasons why a cat won't get too close to a hedgehog.
Probably.
Next question.
Well, if there's the spines, I mean, you've got between 5,000 and 8,000 spines on each hedgehog, and each spine has its own muscle, and then they're all attached to one big muscle that is like the drawstring bag to make them curl up. It's quite fascinating when you study it.
Next question we got is, how do you know if a hedgehog is visiting?
Usually poop. There's usually poop involved, and quite often in the bowl. Sometimes you'll see their tracks in soil, but yeah, usually it's their poop. But you could get one of these trail cameras for about 60 quid, set them up. They're great to watch.
What does hedgehog poo actually look like? Is it kind of like a smaller dog poo, or is it kind of like rabbit droppings?
No, more like a small dog or cat poo. But having said, and much smaller as a rule, but I've noticed with the female hedgehogs, the larger ones, you could mistake it for a small dog poo. Some of them are quite incredible and you wonder where it came from.
Just the last one, before we have to move on because time is running away with us. My sister Brenda has 2 nesting in her garden. Should she have weighted them, etc., and contact the Hedgehog Society? And what's the kind of average weight for a hedgehog?
Right. At this time of year, if the hedgehog weighs less than 650 grams, it needs to go into your nearest rescue to be overwintered or fattened up. And this is what I do with the small ones that come in, especially the late autumn babies. They then go back into what I call soft release once they've got to 650, 700 grams. But in general, yes, that's the safe weight. If they're less than that, they may need help. But you can weigh them, but don't handle them too often. It's the best bet.
And just quickly, one last one that's come in. What's best to use in hedgehog boxes? Is it dry leaves or straw, or does it not really matter?
You can use both. You can use both, or leave a pile of it next to the, like I say, in a plastic container so it's kept dry, and let them help themselves, because they will. If you put it next to your nest box, they'll grab it and take it in. But straw is better than hay. There's a lot of arguments on that, but in my experience, hay goes mouldy, and it can attract the damp more, whereas straw is a bedding. Hay is a fodder. It's not really meant to be a nesting. So straw is better, and the leaves.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on, Lucy. If anybody
Very welcome.
has more questions, as I say, Lucy will put some contact people in the chat. And I believe if you go onto Facebook and go onto the Lucky Hedgehog Rescue page, then Lucy's on the other end of that. So if you ask any questions, she'll get back to you anyway. But I want to finish off. I got given this little fella for Christmas, and my phone is modelling it. It is by the size of it. It is a baby hedgehog model to put on the edge of your flower pot. So even if you haven't got real ones, you get a really cute one like this, and it won't run away.
I want one.
Well, I know who gave it to me. I'll ask them.
But no, thank you very much, Lucy. That is really helpful, and I hope that's helped a lot of our members actually know what to do when they've got a hedgehog in their garden. Just a couple of things come back. One of them is Judith, who's just said, thank you, Lucy. Another one of our members, Kirsty, just said that was great to learn. Thank you so much, Lucy.
That's brilliant. And I would also just say to our members, if there's somebody you would really like to talk to who are an expert in a certain field, let us know and we'll see if we can find somebody that will come on, because anyone who is an expert, and I like to think, and occasionally I'm an expert, and Lucy will probably agree, there's nothing an expert loves more than to come and talk about what they know. So let us know and we'll see who we can bring on. But anyway, thank you so much, Lucy. We're going to move swiftly onwards. One of the videos that we were filmed a few weeks ago, and we've had it we've never actually shown it because we've just had so much content, but it kind of follows on from Hedgehogs because we're talking about hedgerows. You see, we've got a couple of hedge links coming through here. So this is a video we shot at Crundale, and it's probably a month, 6 weeks ago now, but it's just shows you some of the colour within our hedgerows if you actually choose to look. Please enjoy the video.
Good afternoon, Simon Pollard here. We're on a path in between two hedgerows. It's absolutely beautiful. We're out in the autumn, the sun's lowering in the sky, but we've got so many colours and so many plants around us. Let me show you a few. We've got old man's beard here. It's a clematis. It's spread along this hedgerow. In fact, it's bordering this fence, which is actually supporting it brilliantly well. But the old man's beard comes from the fact that these are the seeds. And the beard, feathery parts of the beard are designed so those seeds can be carried away in the wind and settle down in a new place away from the mother plant. That's fantastic. But look also here, we've got the red flowers of spindle. Absolutely beautiful. And they just they burn out at you from that green at the side of the hedgerow, which is absolutely glorious. Now, if we come over here, look, follow me now. Look at a wild rose. It's full of rose hips. Again, those red hips really standing out. This must have been an absolute picture in the summer when it was full of blooms. But if we also look around us, there's an awful lot of wild carrot, an awful lot of cherry, wild cherry, prunus. We've got the red stems here of dogwood. There's so many things. And if we look around also, we've got brambles, stinging nettles. Brambles are an amazing fruit. They give us, ultimately, they've been developed to give us blackberries. But in a garden, they're horrible. Everywhere they touch the ground, they root. But out here, they're fantastic. They give us that wild harvest. Is that not just cool? This is just one small section of hedgerow along a path in the autumn. Absolutely love it. Makes me just feel so joyful just to be alive. Simple Life Circle. Thank you very much. So, hedgerows part 2. Sycamore. Beautiful, small, green leaf normally, but as we get into autumn, the leaves turn to red. Amazing. Hazel. Absolutely fantastic hedgerow tree. They never get very big. But look, catkins are starting to form. Beautiful. And here, hawthorn. And have you seen the way the hawthorns have been painting our countryside red this year? The berries are fantastic. And that's because we had an amazing May, and all that May blossom, those white flowers, were prolific. You see how spring bleeds into autumn. And if we get a good spring, we're going to get a fantastic autumn. How cool is that? Simple Life Cycles. Thank you.
Playing with the words again. It is terrible. But it is. If you actually look at what's going on in the year and you take on board the weather, and it's quite probable that I think we had that most amazing spring, was absolutely gloriously full of sunshine, and the hedgerows were white. They were white because there was blossom everywhere. And then we had that really, really wet autumn, which came into winter, and all of a sudden we have that red berries. It's funny, we've got a quiz later on the things that we've done throughout the last 2 months. We should have had a question for that. What painted our countryside red? There you go. Anyway, so we're going to move on. We were talking just now about hedgehogs and the houses for hedgehogs, and we showed you the hedgehog box, which thankfully Lucy approved of because it had the chambers on the inside, modelled by Ross. Now, this is a bit of a promo, I'm afraid. We're selling the boxes. We get them from a local carpenter who actually recycles them from pallets and things like that. And he makes them all by hand. So they're totally bespoke. We've got those hedgehog boxes you can buy from us well, they cost £35 normally, but for members, they're a bit cheaper. We're going to tell you more about that later. We've also got blue tip boxes. These are, again, made by the same gentleman. We've got slate roofs. They're completely wooden all through. And they're blue tip boxes because of the hole that's here. And for blue tits, that hole needs to be 22 millimetres. That's 22 millimetres. Now, again, these normally sell for £15, but they will also sell, as we'll tell you later, if you're a member.
Now, one of our members has quickly just come back and said she has one of those hedgehog boxes in her garden.
Which is brilliant. We say, came through, we brought that across and delivered. We have bat boxes, again, made by themselves, same local gentleman, made from pallets, recycled. Bats go in from the underneath, and they've got the ridges on the back here, so they can land and scramble up into the boxes. They also sell for £15, but there's a deal to be had on those as well. Now, one of the things we've been asked by a couple of people, which was rather nice, and we've not actually done this before, but you'll have seen these jackets that I've been wearing in all the videos. Now, these are a standard black jacket, but they're specially recycled. There's 15 plastic bottles in each, at least in each of these jackets. Now, if you were interested and you wanted one, we can find out what they would cost, whether or not you had them with no name on them at all, just the Chaffinch logo, or even your own name. If there are people who are interested, then we can find out exactly what they would cost if people were interested. But we've, as I say, had a couple of inquiries, which is why we've just put them into the show for this evening.
Tongue in cheek, are those jackets waterproof?
I wear it pretty much all day, every day. I haven't worn it in a torrential downpour. I tend to go to my traditional wax jacket, but they are definitely showerproof. And well, I'll find out next time it's heavily raining if I get damp and wet and soggy, but they're definitely showerproof. But I would be reluctant to say they were 100% waterproof, even though they are made of plastic bottles. So anyway, so those are some of the items that we do have for sale. We can let you have. And also, if people would like concrete kickboards with specially cut hedgehog holes, then we can sell those as well.
As well as wooden ones. We can do wooden ones as well, but you can buy those as they come. But we can cut them into your garden if that's what you'd like. Now, just to touch back on the bird boxes, hedgehog boxes and bat boxes, they're made by a local gentleman to us who is recovering from having cancer, and for him it's his outlet to be able to do something and find almost another purpose again whilst he's recovering from cancer. So it's not only you helping us out, you're helping him out as well by giving him something to do and something to enjoy doing whilst he's recovering. And
recuperation, it's that cycle thing again, you know. We help him out, he makes boxes, and we can then pass them on at the lowest possible price. So anyway, that was that. We're going to move swiftly on again, because on the subject of boxes, we actually do sell some DIY boxes you can build yourself. So we thought we would actually get Ross to build one of these boxes so you can see the process itself, if you like. And we're going to give away the nest box that Ross has built. And we're going to tell you how you can be
the winner
how you can win that next box straight after this little video.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now, this is Ross checking for Simple Life Circle, and I'm just about to start building one of our DIY bird boxes. I'm going to take you along for the trip.
This is the bit. We're going to start putting music on these bits, but we're kind of like one step at a time with the technology. So we said, well, never mind. Instead of putting music over it, what we'll do is we'll put a little bit of dialogue over it. Now, I would just point out that that Ribena bottle is not in my coat. So
this is how far I've got so far. I've got my two sides, which are nailed in. I'm just about to put the bottom on. The 4 nails already in. And that should just nail onto there.
your turn to talk.
No, I mean, it's very straightforward to build. The instructions are very helpful. And it definitely gives you something to do for a little while. And you could do it with your children. It's very straightforward to do, and it's definitely something you could do with your kids. And I had a great time making it. It didn't take too long. It only took me about 15 to 20 minutes, but it was definitely a lot of fun to build. Tools you need are very simple, very basic tools.
So here we have my DIY bird box. It's finished. It's complete. And I'm going to go put it up in a tree. Hopefully in the spring, I'll get a chance to see some birds nested in it and maybe see some fledglings come from the nest that they might put inside it. That's Ross, Simple Life Circle. Cheers.
Okay, so as you can see, the instructions are foolproof. We decided, as we said just now, we're not actually going to put this nest box up in a tree. We're going to give it away, and we're going to tell you how to do that. But what we have got is some video from the summer of some of our resident sparrows actually using one of the nest boxes in our garden. So here we go.
So, Simon, Awakening Walks and Talks. Right here, look, it's one of the joys of putting up a bird box. You're given this little one, but you can see Mrs. Sparrow is feeding the youngsters at the door of the nest box. This is absolutely fantastic. This is why we build gardens for wildlife, so we can capture these moments. Yeah, we have a flock of around about 30 birds that come to our feeders, and this is one of them, quite obviously nesting in the box, which is on the edge of the willow tree. It's near the pond. Absolutely love it. Love life. I love bringing life into my garden. I love bringing life into my life, because after all, isn't being alive ultimately what it's all really about? Thank you. That's Simon from Awakening Walks and Talks.
Okay. Anybody catch the unintentional complete and utter cock up in the middle of that video?
I noticed.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Anybody else? We're going to give you about 5 seconds to jump into the chat, and if anybody actually gets it right, we'll send you a bird box. Any takers? Oh.
There is another option to win it if you can't think of it right now.
Anyway,
we've had one else come back, wrong bird.
No, so they were definitely sparrows.
They were definitely sparrows.
I mean, I have to admit, ultimately, it's one of those, you've got to be in it to win it. The actual mistake is actually that's not a willow tree.
It's a beech tree.
It's a beech tree. It's a copper beech tree. And I don't know why I said willow, because it's a beech tree that has been in my garden for as long as I've lived here. I'm sorry, Judy. Fractionally just missed the mark.
There is another opportunity to win the bird box. Handmade by me. Blood, sweat and tears went into that box. We'll get onto that in a second. Which have one question come back regarding bird boxes. Do bird boxes need cleaning out?
I would clean a bird box out late summer, early autumn, every year, because birds are extremely mucky, messy, and in every respect. Whereas there are some creatures that will actually clean things out and start again. The average nest box, they will just kind of keep building and keep building. So I would clean it out late summer. Late summer because they should have finished using it for bringing up their broods, and it's more likely to be empty or at least disused before they then start to check out where they can actually overwinter, because they quite often will, especially if you think little birds like wrens, for example. Wrens will overwinter in nest boxes, and I was reading the other day that there was 61 wrens found in a box over winter. I'm pretty sure when I was working for the RSPB, they'd said 67 they'd found. So it's kind of like the bit of the window in between, if you like, the season for actually using a nest box. So simple answer though, yes.
Now, if you just pass me the bird box, which is up for grabs by everyone, I will just answer one of the questions which has come in. Do you have to dismantle a bird box first to clean it? Most of them, like the one that I built the other day, here it is. Let me just shout off a little bit. They have a lid that opens. So once you've got it in the tree, you go up a ladder and take it down, or just go up there and clean it out. You can just open it up and access the inside. But this is the official bird box, which is up for grabs for people to win.
And Ross will even sign it for you.
I have a cat. Should I avoid putting in a bird box?
No, just make sure that it's at least 6 foot high off the ground, and there's no obvious climbing mechanism for a cat. We haven't actually got cats, but we are surrounded by them, and we pretty much, every nest box we put up gets used. So as long as there's not kind of an easy climbing access, you should be fine.
The other come back with this one obviously does open, but if the box is sealed, do you have to dismantle it to empty it?
Yes, because, well, I would say that it's not absolutely vital, but if it's relatively simple, I would clean it out.
Most of them do have 4 screws on top, which you can undo to access it.
For example, this one, you would have to just undo those 4 screws, which is fairly simple. It's a Phillips screwdriver, and it will take you probably 10 minutes tops to undo it. Just clean it out and put it back again. Yeah.
I think we've got one person that would really like the bird box, which one of them is Kirsty, who's come back saying that's a cool bird box. Well, now, moving on to our next bit, Kirsty, this is how you can actually win this bird box. Now, this is what we like to call the in-broadcast challenge, or as this week is the Christmas special, it's the Christmas quiz, but there's not actually many questions about Christmas. It's a simple laugh circle annual quiz, shall we say.
That's it.
Do this every year.
It's very un-Christmassy Christmas quiz.
Yeah, the very un-Christmassy Christmas quiz with the in-broadcast challenge. I think that's the best way to say it.
We're waffling. Go on with the quiz.
But this is the bird box is up for grabs. You can win this if you get all the answers right. There are 10 questions. We'll give you a moment so you can grab a pen and paper. And we'll take a couple of minute comfort break just for anyone who wants to use the toilet or grab a drink. And then we will move on with the quiz and someone will win the bird box.
Brilliant. Anyway, it's funny. One of the things we wanted to actually show tonight, and I'm filling here, but we actually got some amazing footage of some wrens early in the year. We put up all these nest boxes and they nested. We've got this big metal eagle down by the pond. And
it has been attacked by the winds lately. It's got one wing which is up and one wing which is kind of drooped a little bit.
It's been a bit of a droop, but it was amazing. We were out. It's funny. We've got the stand that the eagle's on, and it had these lights wrapped around it, solar lights, and they stopped working. So we were taking the lights off, and we suddenly realised there was little flapping of wings, and this bird went. And my wife Gillian said, "Whoa, stop! Look, there's a wren." And I almost finished. We got the lights off, and we managed to get some footage of the wrens in the eagle. Now, I couldn't find the one that hadn't got the top and the tail and all the stuff that goes out for promotional use. But if you go onto the Simple Life Circle or the simonpollard.uk website or YouTube, then the video's on there. So you might want to go and have a look, because it's one of those rare moments, as we said. You want to see fantastic wildlife, you've got to get out there as often as you can. to give yourself the more chances as you possibly can. Anyway, we're going to crack on with the quiz. Now,
Hopefully everyone's back.
we're going to trust you to be honest here, okay? Now, we can't obviously police it to make sure that no one's cheating, because we know you're not going to cheat. And if there is a tie at the end of it, then we're going to have a tiebreaker question, okay? So, question 1, Ross.
I hope everyone is ready. Now, question 1. What are the 3 animals that hibernate in the UK? Now, please write them down, and then at the end, we'll ask for your total score. Please don't put them in the chat, because then you'll give everyone else the answer.
And we'll get confused.
Yeah, we'll get very confused. Right. Question 2. Can you name 2 trails from our long distance walk section? Okay, there is 5 of them, so hopefully you can name 2 of them. Question 3. How many tawny owls does it take to make a twit to woo?
I know the answers to that.
So do I, but we should know the answers.
Shush, don't tell anybody.
I won't tell anyone.
No. Right, carry on.
Question 4. When is the best time of day to see bats?
Generally,
In principle.
yes. There's always a rogue bat.
Question 5. What tree has a multiple fingered leaf?
That we've actually featured in the programme.
It has been in the programme. It has been in one of the videos that we have done.
It's been hugged by me.
Question 6. What should you check when buying a hedgehog box? Now, we've just spoken about this with Lucy.
Yes. Who was paying attention? Do we know how many answers there are? What's out of?
It's out of 10.
Out of 10.
There are 10 questions.
So, for example, you need to get all 3 of the animals in the hibernation question to get 1 point.
Yes.
Right. Just clarifying that.
We'll clarify once we've run through the questions. 7. Which well-known creature was falling asleep constantly in a children's classic tale?
Wasn't he in the answer to one of the other questions?
Yeah, that is a hint. It was the answer to one of the other questions. Question 8. Can you name 3 phases in the lunar cycle?
We said 3 because we thought 2 of them would be easy.
Question number 9. What major annual celebration happened on the 21st of December? That's annual. Just like to specify annual.
Not every 800 years like we talked about last time.
And the final question, question number 10. Can you name all 3 books you were given for becoming a founder member?
That's a bit loaded, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
We'll just give everyone a second. And if you can put in the chat when you are ready to continue, we'll go through the answers and we will mark off how many answers you've got.
So, probably because time's rattling on a little bit. We're probably all right. Yeah, we'll keep that in. We'll see how we go. So, are we going to ask people to put the answers in the chat in a moment?
So I'll go through each question, and since time is running away, I will tell you the answers and how many points you get per answer. Each answer is 1 point, so there are only 10 points up for grabs. You can only get 1 point per question. There's not a case of if you've got all three right, you get a point per answer. I don't know. If everyone is ready, we will go through the answers for all the questions. So, question number 1, which is, what are 3 animals that hibernate in the UK? The answer is bat, hedgehog, and mouse.
Dormouse.
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 Not mouse, dormouse. There's more than one kind of mouse.
Not just a door, not just a mouse, a dormouse. Question number 2. Can you name 2 trails from our long distance walking segment? The options you had were the West Highland Way, North Downs Way, Hadrian's Wall, the Ridgeway, and the South Downs Way. Just to answer your question, Judith, the tortoise does not hibernate. The only 3 in our country that are native to our country is the bat, the hedgehog, and the dormouse. Question number 3. How many tawny owls does it take to make a twit to woo? That is 2. One says twit and one says twoo.
Incidentally, it's the male that goes to woo and the female that goes to wit.
The answer to question number 4. What is the best time of day to see bats? That is dawn or dusk.
Definitely seen more at dusk, but we thought we'd be generous.
We thought we'd give you a fighting chance.
Because you can't see them in the dark like they can see you.
Question number 5. The answer to question number 5. What tree has multiple fingered leaf? The answer is chestnut.
Horse chestnut, not chestnut. Horse chestnut. Chestnut's got 1. Horse chestnut's got the lots of them.
Horse chestnut.
I have hugged chestnut trees as well as horse chestnut trees, though.
The answer for question number 6. What should you check when buying a hedgehog box? Now, hopefully, everyone got this right, because we have just spoken about it. It's the size of the door. Because you need to have the right size door to let the hedgehog in, which is 4 inches or 5 inches. But Lucy did recommend 5 inches. Question number 7. Which well-known creature kept falling asleep constantly in a children's classic tale? The answer is a dormouse. Now, we've spoken about a dormouse because it was the answer to question 1 already. So the answer is a dormouse.
How many quizzes do you get dormice twice?
Never know.
It's not a question.
We might get the answer being a door. We might get the answer being a mouse.
Get on.
Question number 8. Can you name 3 phases in the lunar cycle? The answers you could have put: full moon, new moon, gibbous moon, half moon, and crescent moon. Question number 9. What major annual celebration happened on the 21st of December? The answer is the winter solstice. And question number 10. Can you name all 3 books you were given for becoming a founder member? Now, hopefully some of you have them in front of you. But the answers are The 3-Year Pond, The 4 Keys, and The 5 Senses. Now, that's out of 10. It is all just 1 point per question. So please put in the chat how many you got right, and please be honest.
If anybody says 11, we won't believe them.
Judith came back, she's got 8 out of 10. Brenda's come back with 7 out of 10. Kirsty is distraught, she only got 4 right. Gillian has come back with 7. Let's give you 30 more seconds, Raw. 30 more seconds.
72?
7.2.
Oh, right.
This is why I'm in charge of the chat and you're not.
Yes.
Claire's come back, she only got 2. Sheila got 2 as well. But if you would like to go back and watch the shows, which we were talking about, you can find them on the Facebook group or on the YouTube channel. So when it comes around to we do our next quiz, then you've got all the knowledge you need. So I believe, looking at all the scores, because I'll give you 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds just to get any more answers in. So I believe that is the cut-off. Our winner for the bird box, which we will just model again. I believe. Drum roll, please. Is Judith. So we will get in touch and we will arrange a time when we can post it to you or drop it round when the pandemic is not in full flow.
I have got to go on a bit of a journey a week tomorrow, so I probably will try and drop it into Judith. I know where Judith lives, so I'll probably drop it round to Judith a week tomorrow. Okay.
Unlucky to everyone else, but there will be another quiz in another couple of months' time, and we will work out another prize for them. So maybe, Kirsty, you'll get a chance next time to win a bird box or whatever we have to offer, and we'll try and make this an annual thing to have a quiz.
Well, maybe more than annual, but anyway, we want to give stuff away. So anyway, we're going to move swiftly onwards. I had the opportunity earlier in the year, and I was a bit gobsmacked with this one. Absolutely, utterly gobsmacked. I'm not going to say too much about it because, for the reasons I've actually said, but I'll tell you a bit more afterwards. But this was really, really special. So, when you're ready, Ross.
Sorry, I'm just... There we go. So we are going for. Sorry, I've got
damselflies.
So many things going on at once. I think that's the way to say it.
Simon Pollard, Awakening Walks and Talks. Damselflies, banded demoiselle damselflies at that. The most amazingly beautiful damselflies. Very hard to film because they're always on the go. These two are mating. Now, on the assumption that fairies didn't exist, I think probably these are little creatures are where those stories came from. Because when they start flying, they look just like we imagine fairies might look like. So we just move around a little bit carefully here. Then we'll get a better view of them. How is about this? They are gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Now ultimately, these little creatures are the reason why I wanted to do a walk around Westbere. You know what? It's absolutely unreal to actually capture this on film for you. This is beautiful. You see, I love damselflies and I love dragonflies because they have the most unreal life cycle. You know, this is pretty much the last thing as adults that they will do. And the male's gone. Just left the female there now. He's mated. But as adults, they pretty much only have one responsibility, and that is to reproduce. Damselflies and dragonflies are, when she's finished, she's going to go back to the water and she'll lay her eggs. When she lays her eggs, they will drift off in the running water. Banded demoiselles need that running water. They stay in the water, and she's gone for 6 months or so.
So, again, I kept filming, and there were just pictures of stinging nettles. They are. I mean, we walk around Westby. We actually walked around there on Christmas Day. It's Christmas Day? Was it Boxing? Anyway,
Boxing Day.
A couple of days ago, and we did the exact same walk. But we tend to go there in the summer just for the banded demoiselles. With that spot on the wing, when they're flying around, they are the most unbelievably kind of almost ethereal, kind of surreal creature that you can imagine. And they flit about and they're always on the move. So they are really, really hard to film. I've got lots and lots of video and photos of vegetation where there was a damselfly a second before. It's unreal. They are really hard to film, but the lifestyle that they have is almost more bizarre than watching the Alien movies, because from where you saw them depart from the stinging nettles there, the female will go back to the water and she'll do what's called ovipositing, and she just dips her tail, the end of her abdomen, into the water and just releases a few eggs each time. But there will be there will be a large number of eggs. Now they will eventually settle onto a plant in the water, and either if it's late summer, then the following year, that little tiny nymph will come out. If it's earlier in the year, they'll come out this year. And the nymph is an eating machine. All it does is eat. I mean, not so much with the damselfly, but the dragonflies are incredibly aggressive predators as a nymph. They'll stay in the water for a season. They may overwater depending on when they're laid. And then they'll come out the next year. Now, that's a major, major challenge if you're a damselfly, because there is surface tension on water. If you ever looked at a glass of water, you can see where the water actually goes up the side by the glass. And there's a film right the way across it. Now, if you're a person or a dog, it doesn't even exist. But when you're a tiny damselfly, it's really, really, really hard to penetrate. So they'll actually climb out on a leaf and drag themselves out, generally early in the morning, because they need to pump their wings full of blood. As a nymph, they've got a really solid outer skeleton. It's called an exoskeleton, unlike ours, which is on the inside, an endoskeleton. And they change that 3 or 4 times, depending on which species of damselfly that they are. And the last time they come out as a fully formed adult with wings. But they wait till they come up the stem, they climb up, drag themselves through the surface tension, and they'll wait in the sun for a little while they actually fill their wings up with blood. And they obviously then need the sun to dry them out, because obviously living in the water, they're wet. But when they come out, they're breathing air, whereas a nymph, they breathe oxygen from water. So they go through a major, major transformation. And if you've ever looked at damselfly wings, especially those banded demoiselles, but the dragonflies as well, those unbelievably creative, ornate design of all those arteries, blood veins going through the wings, and the colours of their bodies. They're absolutely fantastic. The reds, the yellows, the blues, the greens. We can't make those with our technology nowadays. Nature provides us with wonders we cannot get anywhere else. And as adults, they come out, and their only purpose is to breed. All they've got to do is as a pair of adults, is have one of those eggs turn into a nymph and make it to adulthood to breed, and it's job done. And from there on, as you said, they then mate, go and lay the eggs, and they will die, because that's it. They've fulfilled their cycle, which is, it's just absolutely unbelievable to watch. And one of the things, when you have a pond in your own garden and you find dying damselflies or dragonflies, that's great, because they laid their eggs in the water in your pond. How cool is that? Absolutely unreal. Anyway, we're coming towards the end of our time with you today. We've got another couple of features to squeeze in, so I need to shut up.
Yes, so here is a dust story which I shot not so long ago, but I'll just play it for you.
Good afternoon. This is Ross for Simple Life Circle with a dust story for once. Bit of a change from Dawn stories. Now, we're just out in the marshes between the town and Betsson Country Park, and we're just out to walk the dogs, and it's so still and so quiet at the moment. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but you can just about see a small layer of the mist behind me as it's all settling for the day. And there is no wind. There is not much noise either. And it's just brilliant. and it's got all the fog. You can just about see it, and it's picking up. And it's going to continue picking up until the sun completely disappears. And it's just amazing. And this is the perfect time of year to do it. If you can find a day when it's clear and it's a little bit chilly, but there's no wind, you get out to the marshlands, you'll see a lot of bits like this. So it's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing, in it.
In it, bruv.
In it. God. So, I don't know if anybody noticed, but we kind of tried to have a journey through the day bit today from kind of dawn till dusk. Now, if we'd have done that properly, we wouldn't have had Lucy on till probably another couple of hours because it would have been night time for the hedgehog. But we kind of tried to get that thing together. Anyway, we really, really hope that you've enjoyed yourselves this evening. And we really do thank everybody who's been with us for the whole of the last 2 months. It's been amazing to have you on the journey with us. And we'd also really, really like those people who have said, you know, we love what you do and we've been thoroughly enjoying your programs and we want to continue on this journey with you. And those people have become founder members. Now, we can't do this for nothing. It takes an incredibly large amount of time to plan these programs, set up the videos, go out and record them, put them together and advertise them, make sure everybody gets the links and everything okay. We'd have to apologise to Claire and Sheila. We're normally much better at it than this, but we'd like to get all that together. So we do need to go to a membership site. Now in January, that's going to be at a cost of £20 per month. Now for that, you will get obviously the 4 one-hour broadcasts on a Thursday, full of facts, fun, videos, information, special guests, and obviously interactions. You obviously then also become members of the Simple Life Circle Facebook group, and in January that will be a members only page. So that will give you again access to further features. You'll be able to get the recordings of the shows that we've done if you've missed them, as well as that. But we're also going to be offering 15% off any of the merchandise that we sell, whether that's the hedgehog boxes, bat boxes, bird boxes, jackets, anything like that. So for example, the hedgehog box retails at £35. We can sell them at £29.75. So we've got 15% off everything. So that's all the boxes, the jackets. We take people out on outdoor countryside experiences when the government will let us. There's 15% off those as well. And as of January, we'll also send out one of these 3 books, whichever one we have the largest number of at the time. Now, between now and 6 p.m. on New Year's Eve, you can still become a member. There's a couple of founder member places left for £15 per calendar month. Now, if you're a founder member, it will be £15 forever, for as long as either we are broadcasting or you are a member. That is all you will ever pay for that month. We will also send out all 3 of these books as soon as we get notification that you've signed up.
I've just put the link in the chat for anyone that would like to sign up. The link is there and available for everyone to use.
If for any reason you don't get it, just personal message me on Facebook, send me an email or whatever else, and I will get the link to you. But the one on the Simple Life Circle Facebook page will take you straight to the sign up site. Okay. We think it's a great package and we'd love to have you on this journey with us. That would be just so cool. I think, have I missed anything out there?
I don't think so.
No. So anyway, that's all of that. So
it's time that we start looking at wrapping things up a little bit. But no, thank you all for coming along tonight. A special thank you to Lucy for coming on and talking and filling all of our brains with knowledge about hedgehogs and how we can live with hedgehogs and look after them in our local area. Thank you all for coming. We hope you've had an amazing evening. We've really enjoyed ourselves, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed yourselves too. And no, we look forward to seeing you in the new year. And I'll just pass over to Dad to just wrap the show up for everyone.
Just a little bit of closing philosophy. I want to talk to just for a moment about virtue, because there's a huge difference about being virtuous and acting virtuous, because being virtue comes from, we'll say, love and respect. You know, it's wanting to help out other people. It's wanting to do nice things for people. It's about respecting their possessions and their property, and just having understanding and trying to be empathetic. Whereas quite often being virtuous is something people do because the laws of the country, or their rental accommodation people, or where they work, quite often asks that of them. And it just kind of struck me as in this time of COVID restrictions and difficulties, and there's an awful lot of people rumbling and grumbling and quite often doing other than things, that it's quite nice to just actually think about other people and respect other people. And actually, it'd be nice if people went to, did you have a great Christmas? And people go, it was lovely. It was fantastic. We spent time with the family, and we played a few more games. We watched a lot more telly. We did things really nicely together, and not need to qualify it as because of COVID. So I would just say, as a thought to go away with, hey folks, be virtuous. Wouldn't that be cool? Thank you very much indeed. We'll see you on the 7th of January, those that are coming on the journey with us. Thank you very much for being here tonight. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
We'll be back to 7 o'clock in the new year as well, just so everyone is aware. But no, thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and we'll see you all in the new year. We look forward to it. Plenty more to come.
Happy New Year, everyone. Bye.